Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be talking about the episode from season 2, The Car, when John Boy gets his first car after quite a bit of drama. Anyway, if you are enjoying these segments, please do hit that like button below and subscribe. And if you'd like to know when I'm going to be posting, hit that notification bell. I usually post on Monday and Thursday mornings. At the top of this episode, you see an unusual shot of the Walton front yard with a lot of storm damage. Clearly some sort of a storm with wind has come through and dropped a lot of branches and created just, kind of a mess in the Walton front yard. So in this panning shot across the front yard, you see all the members of the family helping to clean up the storm damage up on the roof, over in the vegetable garden in front of the yard, all of that area. John Boy has a line on a car, so he and John go out to take a look at this car. This particular location, I'm not quite sure where it was. I'm pretty positive it was someplace on the Warner Brothers lot, but that sort of house in the background that looks like either a two-story house or that it's slightly up a hill isn't a spot on the lot that I'm real familiar with, so I don't remember where it was. But in keeping with the theme of a storm, you do see that set dressing has once again created storm damage in this yard. Then when they go over to the Rudge House, again, the whole idea that John Boy's going to work in exchange for this car that Mr. Rudge has is based upon the fact that they have had some additional storm damage that John Boy will fix in exchange for the car. The Rudge House is another house that was on the back lot. I recognize some of the rock formations around the house, but I'm not exactly sure. I have a feeling this was shot across from where Godsy's store is. That area was often used for different things. Ultimately, it was where Jim Bob built the garage, or had the garage that he and Jodie Foster owned. So around that area, there were rocks and things like that, fake rocks basically, and quite often different sorts of sets were created in that area. So I have a feeling this was potentially sets that were built there. Might have also been over someplace further into the jungle area, but somewhere on the back lot of the studio, and set dressed to show the various different damage on the roof. This would have been just a facade of a house. There would have been no actual interior there that they could shoot. So when we go inside the house and you see the kitchen area, that would have been on one of the sound stages. Those kitchen table scenes, yes, the biggest challenge was always matching what we were doing. By matching, I mean that if we were in a wider shot and you passed potatoes by as you were talking, if you started and we saw the potatoes moving and then they cut into a closer shot and the potatoes weren't moving, then you went, what happened to the potatoes? So it was always a challenge for the actors to try and get as much of it as consistent as possible. And then the editors, their job became more difficult in trying to match up things, even head turns. Someone's facing this way. When you cut in, you don't want their head facing that way. All the types of things that would be very distracting. So editors do all that kind of finessing. In this particular case, we are dealing with peas. So in this shot, Will has the peas in his hand. He's right there with them. Then they cut to this other shot and the peas were on the table. So how did the peas get from Will's hand to the table? There were not 2 bowls of peas. We never saw 2 bowls of peas. So just one of those things, because we shot the 2 things separately, nobody would have remembered, oh, at this moment, Will had those peas, so they would not be visible on the table. And most of the time, even the audience doesn't catch them. But I bet next time you go back and look at this, you'll notice that. Scenes on the front porch of the Waltons were sometimes shot on the back lot, and sometimes they were shot on the sound stage, where we did have a recreation of the front porch actually in front of where the facade of that set piece was on stage 26. In this case, this scene would have been shot on stage 26 because, as you see here, the beginning of the shot, we're shooting through the window and you can actually see into the living room. Jason is playing the piano and Grandma and Grandpa are there. So based on that, when the camera moves, we're clearly still on the sound stage. If you had not been able to see into the living room, then there was more likelihood that that might have been shot on the back lot of the studio. As John Boy is reading in bed and keeps getting interrupted with people asking about being able to take a ride in his car, or Mary Ellen asks about him teaching her to drive, at one point you see him lay his book down and lean back as if he's going to sleep. And I thought, why didn't he turn the light off? And then immediately someone knocks on the door, comes in, and then in a little bit, he does actually reach up and turn that light off. That was likely an actual wired light that had been rigged by the electrician so that it could turn on and off there, most likely. It's also possible, quite frequently when we had light changes in a scene, they were being cued by an electrician. There was somebody actually turning that light on and off, in which case, as an actor, if you went to a light switch or something like that, that was going to, like light switches rarely actually worked, like ceiling lights or something like that. They were completely separate. So if someone walked into a room and turned the lights on, you would have to like hold your hand on that light switch long enough for the lights to either come on or go off. Because if you just went like this, there might have been a delay in whoever was actually manually making that change to be able to do that. So we had to sort of cheat that a bit and just go, okay, well, I'm going to pretend, I'm just going to hold my hand here till that light comes on. Or I'm going to turn the lights off and I'm going to hold my hand there until that light goes off. And in that case, you couldn't tell that somebody else had actually thrown a switch from somewhere else on that set. A number of times people have asked about why the color of John Boy's car changed. In this episode, it is a dark blue when Mr. Rudge owns it, and then by the end of the episode, John Boy has painted it tan. In this episode, he actually talks about when he gets that car, he's going to paint it something like a nice dignified tan. I don't know why that was. The car changes color within the actual episode, which leads me to believe there was some reason why they wanted that to happen. It likely was two different cars. I don't know why. I don't know if there was some reason that vehicle didn't actually run or what was going on. It was already committed. They found out something partway through an episode and then had him mention that. But the fact that it was in the script already that he was planning to change its color, makes it a little less likely that they shot the episode and then before they needed the vehicle again, there was some issue. And so for a subsequent episode, they needed to find a new car and come up with a reason why. So it is still a mystery to me. I will see if I can ask around a bit if anybody knows why that car suddenly changed color or why we might have needed a different vehicle. I did love the exchange between John Boy and Grandma when he thinks that even if she wants a ride, that there's no way she'd want to ride in the rumble seat. And then she's so sort of girlish when she comes in and says she'd like to ride in the rumble seat. Just one of those rare occasions when you got to see the character of Grandma be a bit more lighthearted and girlish, and you see the younger side of who she was as a young girl, which is rather sweet. Ultimately, John Boy does work it out to get the car and is of great help to Mr. Rudge and Mrs. Rudge, Martha Rudge. Wonderful actors. Ed Lauder played Hyder Rudge. You may recognize him. He did a lot of guest spots in TV shows. And Bonnie Bartlett, who played Martha Rudge, went on to do a lot of work, including winning 2 Emmys for the TV series St. Elsewhere. Piece of trivia, in real life, she was married to William Daniels, who also played her husband on St. Elsewhere. So there you have it. The addition of John Boy's car to the Walton vehicle family. That's what I have for you on this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons, the car. I'll be back with more behind the scenes and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.